in the spring, in April, Krista approached me about a project.
Whoops, Deb,
She got muted somehow.
sorry, I was trying to mute individually and I muted.
There, I just unmuted. Is that okay?
I'm sorry, that was totally my fault. I screwed up. I was trying to mute everybody individually and I accidentally flipped over you.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I don't know how much everybody heard.
Not much.
Yeah.
Start over.
So the recap is in April, Krista approached me about a collaboration project. Basically, she's been a pen pal with someone who's been in prison for 40 years, and he was sending her poetry. Let's see, I just wanted to give a quick intro per Joe's suggestion and show you the book. And then as I'm showing you the book, I can fill in, Krista can fill in, and if you guys have any questions, just let me know. So I'm going to set up the book and then turn my computer screen so that it shows the book. So this book is called Redemption. And it comes around like this, so that it makes a circle around the poems. So there are two excerpts two poems and one excerpt from this inmate's poetry that I've chosen. I read the poems 4 to 5 times through. There were quite a few of them. After I read them through, I tried to categorize them into things like humorous, the past, redemption. I found that the ones most appealing to me were related to redemption. So those are the ones that I chose. And so you all can look at the book. I can turn it around. I used eco-dyed paper that I made with Bobby and Sherry and Linda and Carol Morgan several years ago. Originally, as I told Krista and Joe, this was going to be my mock-up, but I like the way it turned out so well that it's going to be the final book. So I'll let you folks look at it for a minute and then question away, or Krista, you can start to fill in.
I'm wondering if someone could read a part of this.
I would love for Deb to choose to read a couple of them. I left my original copies with her, and so I don't have them, so I cannot read them. So Deb could choose to read, whatever ones, because she made the selection, and the background is that the University of Arizona Poetry Center, Richard Sheldon has been involved with taking literacy programs into the prisons for years and years and years, starting back in the 1970s. And so in terms of poetry inspiring what I could do for this particular project, I chose not my own voice, but I chose what has inspired me as a partner, along with about 75 other writers in Tucson, some of them poets and some of them who have been incarcerated. So I chose Bill's, my correspondent Bill. I correspond with 2 men who are in prisons, one in Texas and one in California. And this is Bill in California. And little did I know when randomly I was put together with this man who has been incarcerated, little did I know that he was a very natural storyteller and an accomplished writer, and already had been winning prizes by writing about life and observations in the prison system, including an experience that he has in a program which changed his life, which is all about sitting with incarcerated people at the end of their lives and listening to their stories and help them make meaning out of it. So it is a really inspiring experience to be involved there.
Thank you.
And if
So-
you'd like Deb to read something, go for it, Deb.
Sure, sure. So I'll read a short poem called Letting Go. Letting go of all my ego needs. It ain't easy at any age, especially mine, to be older and make real dramatic change. It can be done if you see clear reality, clouded judgment, blames, rationales are blown away. It's easier if fear is first let go. Fear that holds the old thoughts so dear. So nothing is done, accomplished, but anxiety makes it good. Godly decisions, no matter cost. Go ahead and peel away. Send it in so there can be no regression and further denial. Suddenly, a bright, lifting happiness ensues. The terrible pressure is gone, anxiety too. Thank you, Lord, for coming through. Now I can face what comes, clear-eyed, pure of heart, free of all my mitigations, lies, and false perceptions that have fled. William Williams.
Thank you. Hmm.
So Bill was involved with a spiritual group at the prison where he is, which is medium or minimum security. And they, the spiritual advisor there gathered a group of people, basically men who had some insight into writing and dealing with the bigger meaning. And she started a hospice program within this prison. And so, it's one of those things where, just as I said, I gained so much from the last couple of years of being a person involved with a couple of writers. As I said, one of about 75 people who are working through the Poetry Center with incarcerated people basically all over the country. But I gained so much. And both Lori and Bill have said that the hospice program for inmates was one of those things that was win-win-win. And let me just leave it there.
Mhm. Wow.
Okay, 2-minute warning.
Deb, I just wanted to say, Deb, that you have created a book that looks as if, to me, it feels as if it's arms encircling. And that kind of feeling that I'm getting from the wings of that accordion fold is very nice, because it ties into the redemption and the whole idea of holding another and holding yourself. So I really appreciate that part of your design for the book.
Thank you. Thank you. When I made this design, I twirled these arms around all different ways. And I think the best representative of that can be taken in a variety of ways is more of a circle. You could have done like 2 circles or more like wings going out different ways. Wings, trailing. But I think I really like the circle the best to exemplify, his enclosed life. The poems are open because he's sharing, and I thought that the muted tones of the eco-dyed paper worked well with the redemption theme.
The feeling I get from the encircle is that the arms are holding the space for redemption. Yeah, it's really beautifully done, and there's so much meaning on many different levels, and it's really quite beautiful.
Thank you.
It was a really interesting collaboration.
Mm.
And Deb and I have worked with the international community and border issues appreciation before, and I knew she would have a very sensitive approach to this particular project.
Okay, has anyone got any more questions? Because we need to get going.
Oh, okay. I have one question. Now, Krista, you had spoken to me about this book quite a while ago, so I have a little more background information on it and on Bill. Bill will get to see this book, will he?
No,
No, but his mother will? Do I
Yeah,
remember
Bill-
that?
Bill will get to see it when COVID precautions are lifted and he has access online to the Poetry Center. If it makes it into the exhibit, then he will be able to see whatever the Poetry Center is going to do to capture the exhibit. That's what I can tell you. But right now, everybody's on lockdown, and there's no access to anything. Everybody's in their cells.
Uh-huh. So this is a 3-way collaboration,
Yes,
or maybe more, but
Well-
it's definitely a 3-way, right?
definitely a 3-way at this point.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Fabulous, fabulous, and great with the concept and moving forward and to see it, because I know you said Bill is prolific. So to choose from all of his writing must have been difficult, Deb.
It really was. I had to read them through 4 or 5 times to start to
Oh,
absorb, the meanings.
I
Okay.
just have a quick request before we move on. Deb, could we see the book closed again?
Oh, certainly. So the book has these arms or wings closed to the side.
It's beautiful.
And they can pop out.
Deb, how did you choose that particular format? I know we're running out of time, but just would like to know that.
Well, just to get some inspiration, I went through some of my bookmaking books, and then I sat quietly, I said a few prayers, I meditated, and I just let my brainstorm, and that's what I came up with. So, and I thought, I'm not going to deliberate. I'm not going to, spend days trying to figure out what book form. I thought the most attractive book form that came to me within a designated period of time was what I was going to go with. So I'm happy with the choice.
It's beautiful.
Me too.
Thanks.
Okay, Joe, take it away.
Ooh, you're asking me to take it away?
Well, you're the one who's in charge of the agenda.
Okay. Well, first off, I wanted to ask one question of you and Anita, which I would like some clarity on. Let's say Deb has, or in my case and Maria Lee's case, let's say if I had 3 books I would like to submit to this exhibit, and Maria and I did a collaboration. Do I have to count one of those, or could she count it? Or do we both need to count it as one of our 3 books?
Count it once.
Count it once. So either
So
one.
it's going to be one of 3 submissions that cost $35. Does that make sense? So,
Okay.
yeah, you only need to count it one. Hey, come on.
All right,
now.
great.
Let's-
Just checking.
Just, that's a good question that hasn't come up, but
Yeah.
just count it once and it'll be one of 3, either yours or hers. Or if you are making a lot of books, hey, it may have to have another entry fee if you both got 3.
Okay. Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
That could happen, or, you
Good,
know, or
good.
you could, and add on to that 3, however you want to.
All right.
that.
Another thing I wanted to say, which I wasn't sure if it was completely clear, that our next meeting in October, we are not having a Saturday morning meeting, correct?
I think that's correct. I don't think that we need to. I think we'll be meeting on Friday with Julie at the Poetry Center. She will Zoom in,
Okay.
and it may take the whole hour. I don't know with our questions, but we'll wing it otherwise with just discussion. And then, because the next day, I mean, we will have pretty
Yeah.
much covered it. So
Okay. That was one thing I wanted to make
that
sure.
makes sense.
And will the link for meeting with Julie be the same one that we put on the paperwork? Yes.
Yes. She
All right.
does not have that yet. We'll have to provide that for her, but I'm sure that she will be quite, she has a new, you all may not know this, but she got a new position at the library because she has no doubt gotten a degree in library science. I haven't checked this, but she got some kind of, excuse me, training there. Anyway, she is now the archivist and outreach librarian. She is a full librarian. She also is a published poet. And she basically is in charge of the display cases probably now by herself with her new.
And I don't know if this is something you or Sherry want to speak to now, but I was thinking of Bill and his poem and the idea of doing an online catalog. I believe at one point we talked about not just getting in that catalog the people who get into the show, but all the applicants. Is this correct too?
That is also correct. So, and I think that's important because often, I mean, people spend so much time and effort on their books, and there's only so much space. So sometimes people, it's simply a matter of there wasn't enough space. I know, Vicki, you had talked when at one of our meetings about how you like the artworks to have a dialogue together. And that was why some of them didn't get in the show. So not getting in the show doesn't mean that the book is not worthy of being seen by any means. So I think this is one way that all of the entries can be seen. And it will be an exciting online catalog for sure.
Great. And then another thing is there's a exhibit at Pima College shortly after this, where we are assuming that anyone who didn't get their book into the Poetry Center could display their book as part of that if they chose to.
So is that Pima community display unjuried?
I believe it's unjuried. There might be a nominal submission fee for whatever, for promotion or something. But I believe it's an unjuried show that Paperworks is going to be in charge of, and that could change. But that's how it was 2 years ago when we originally scheduled to do this, and it's been put off and put off again. So yes, it was going to be an unjuried show of Paperworks art.
Okay, great. Wow, that's pretty unusual. So that's
It
great.
is, yeah.
And Bobby said yesterday at the meeting, if anybody's interested in heading up that,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, go ahead, Bobby. Say it again.
No, we need somebody, a coordinator or two. Actually, David will hang the show, but we just, and his students will hang the show, but we just need somebody putting out the publicity, setting up the guidelines, being there on intake day, that kind of thing. So we need a volunteer or two to head that up.
Thanks.
That's it.
Okay. It coincides with the opening at the Poetry Center, I think, the beginning of that show. So there's going to be a little bit of confusion with that, but not if everybody's organized. It'll be great.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
One more idea is that when you are doing a journal for the Poetry Center entries and maybe all of the entries, I think a great way to do it is something called Mag Cloud, which is what well, anyway, we can talk about it more. But the Wish You Were Here book project with 173 artists that was just held, they put it up on Mag Cloud. You sent in your pictures, whatever, and then people can either download it as a PDF or they can order a softbound catalog. It was like $10 to order your own catalog. And so it seems like a great service. We don't have to invest a lot of money if somebody can do that. And we'll look into that more.
Is that MEG Cloud?
I think MAG Cloud, Mag Cloud.
That makes sense, Mag Cloud.
That's it,
Yeah.
because I ordered from it already, so.
Did you? Yeah. And I think it's great. So you're not, making the cost be paperwork to produce a journal a lot of times is a couple $1,000s. It's a big chunk of our budget. So I think something like this where the people who want the catalog can get it for themselves at a nominal cost.
Great. Wow, that's pretty fabulous.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, that's really fabulous.
Yeah.
I had a quick other thing. We would like to see about 30, 35 entries into this exhibit, but I'm just putting it out there. If you know anyone who may want to enter but hasn't been able to come to these Zooms or doesn't feel that connected, please ask them to submit something for this. And part of that is to do things like, possibly giving the Poetry Center the funds to do a purchase award and other things like that. So I'm hoping everyone who's thinking about doing it contacts someone they know who's not thinking about participating and ask them to do that. So we get enough entries. The membership is down a little, not much actually, but it would be helpful to get more people.
Is this show open to other people who are not Paperworks members or just members?
Just Paperworks members, yeah.
Okay.
Unless it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
And then, if it's a collaboration, the collaborators don't have to be, just one person has to be a member. I just want to recall, a lot of you recall this, but I think it's it may be 7, I hope it's only 6 years ago, at our last show at the Poetry Center was an extremely successful show. The Poetry Center had never had an opening that was that active and seen and the artwork seen. So I think we can repeat all of that again. And so we'll start really jazzing it up a little bit to promote it with the members as well.
And my understanding is that the book fair is looking to have an in-person on-campus book fair. And if there's any way that it can be up, during that, that'd be great.
You mean at the regular book fair? Well, we used to show at the Special Collections Library during the book fair.
Uh-huh.
Well,
that's what we did. But I think if it's if it can be at the Poetry Center, either, part of the time or, well, I shouldn't say part of the time, but I don't know if there's a possibility of extending it. But the word from the Poetry Center is that they are, and the university is that they are going to have in person as well as Zoom.
Next year.
Yep.
I know the Poetry Center books out probably at least 2 years for all of the things that they do, but the Special Collections Library is right there at the book fair.
Yeah.
It's right in the book fair almost. It's on the edge, but it's right there.
Yeah.
Versus the Poetry Center is pretty far away, but something to think about. Something to think about then again, if we want to do that, it's okay. Great.
Hey, Anita, I want to back up for a second because I want to make sure I understand what you were saying about collaboration and counting the books.
Yes.
So going back to Joe's example, if she's submitting 3 books and Maria is submitting 3 separate books and they got one book together, Are you saying that that fourth book, they could pay the extra $35 to expand the submission? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, if they both have 3 books already, so that's one entry fee for each one of them. And then they do a book together, that would have to be a separate entry fee because it's a 4th book. So, yeah, so, but then they could also put in, one of them could put in 2 more of their books if they wanted to with that collaboration. So each entry fee for $35, 3 artist books. Only 1 artist per 3 entries unless it's a collaboration.
Okay,
That makes sense?
yes.
It takes a lot of clarification. And, if somebody email me if there's any more problems there or questions, but also we'll get it straightened out as we go. If there's any confusion at the closer to the exhibit, we'll get it all straightened out so that people understand. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we can move on to Sherry and Anita talking about your collaborative book.
Okay. So Sherry, we have 10 minutes. Do you have so you have a screen share thing there, Sherry?
I do. And now I got to figure out how to get into it, but I do.
Can you put me on the screen for a minute and I can show this diagram I made this morning?
I'm going to spotlight you.
Or go ahead and put okay. Okay, you guys, you can see this, right? Can you see the whole piece of paper?
Back it up a little bit.
Back it up, back it up.
There.
Okay, so I'm not usually this ridiculous, but a collaboration, this is just a collaboration with 2 people. I'm going to check my time now. Okay. And it gets very, it's interesting because it gets a little more complex, even though Sherry and I kept it pretty simple and we have worked together before. But I made this little diagram to kind of remember. So this project started last November with Sherry sent me an email of contronyms, words that are contronyms. Contronyms means a word has an opposite meaning. I think there's 75, 78 words in the English language that have opposite meanings. And that's how we got started. So we did start, and I said, emailed her back and said, Sherry, let's do a collaboration with this. This is not something that I would have chosen to do for an artist book, and it's probably not something that Sherry on her own would have chosen to do as an artist book. And that's one thing about a collaboration is that we may be involved in subjects, ways of making books that we wouldn't do by ourselves. And that's one of the benefits of a collaboration is that it really expands our way of thinking and viewing our own process as well as a collaborative process. So that's how the book started. So we started with the concept or over here, we started with a concept this time. We didn't start over here, but collaborations are different. So like in Krista and Deb's and Bill's collaboration, it was started really from the text and went from book form. Oh, it's somewhere in there, they got this together, what the concept would be of redemption, which affected the book form. So it's interesting, collaborations can come from any point of view. So that's how we got started. And we went directly from our subject into book form and what we would do there. So if you can turn me way off now. Oh, one thing that I wanted to say about contronyms. They're opposites. I mean, how does, so what? So what? Why do a book on this? I mean, who cares really? But the more I worked on it, the more I realized, and even initially, how do we handle opposites as human beings? How do we work with good and bad? How do we work right and wrong? Safe, Sherry brought this up. Safe and unsafe right now, which is huge. How do we hold all of that at once? Rich and poor. How do we hold these things? So in some way, it's a question of neuroplasticity and flexibility. And so this subject can kind of extend out into our real world. Okay, Done.
Okay. Screen share. I never have to do this. I just help Bobby with it. So I'm like, okay. All right.
So I should say this book isn't totally finished yet. We haven't sewn it together. And
Okay.
this is not a final print either, actually.
Can you see it?
Yeah, looks good, Sherry.
Tape.
You did good at fitting in that box pretty good.
So this is kind of a, this is like an overview of what the book looks like. It's pretty simple. Then this is the front and the back pages. And Anita, you need to talk about the antilogies and the contronyms.
Another word for contronym are words that have opposite meanings is antilogies. Actually, in the English language, there's a lot of words that are associated with that idea. But I also, so for this title page, it kind of brings forth what contronyms are. These are, the text for this is playful. That's one thing that we wanted to do. The tone is playful. There are some serious subjects in here that aren't necessarily the focus, but some of these were like women's equality, gun control, certainly climate change appears in here, migrants and dislocation. But they're not the main topics, but they're underneath. And I was surprised at how all of this creeps in, this stuff that we're all dealing with right now, creeps into a subject that it wasn't even supposed to creep into, but it's there on our minds. So this first title page is just, so the title of the book is Antilogies. I also wanted to play with the putting titles of poems not at the top, but putting them within the text. I've never done that before, so I always like to do a few different things. So that's that. The one thing about an antilogy or contronym is it's two-faced. One face looks in one direction, the other face looks in the other, and so that's the back of the book. And the question mark, which way do we face, and how can we include opposite meanings and definitions in our lives? How do we hold them?
Okay, and then I only have one more screen here that I did, and I thought maybe Anita can either read it or we can talk about, well, Anita, you take it away. I'm like babbling.
All right, so once we got the subject, then we got the book form. So we decided at that time of the size, because it had to meet the requirements for the Poetry Center entry. And we thought on a rough layout of very simple, text on one side, image on the other. I don't know if I have ever done that way. I always I try to incorporate the text into the image. But so when we chose the text, which you can see, what we wanted was black and white. We wanted a real definite opposite there. So chose Arial black font, all caps. So we get that real black hit on white paper. For the opposite image side, we wanted to do something different. So we went with color. We started our process doing hands-on collage, literally cutting and pasting, and found that wasn't working for us. It was taking too much time. We had to scan and print multiple sizes and arrange them. We both are familiar with Photoshop layers. So after about, I'd say 6 to 8 hours of working hands-on collage, we switched into digital. And the rest of the book was the images were combined digitally. Photographs. So you'll notice in this one, we also found as we worked, there was we developed a formula actually for the image, the collaged image or digitally collaged image. And what we found was we needed a large black dark shape, worked good. We wanted black and white, so it would relate to the other side of the book. And let's see, what else? We wanted one photograph in each one of these collages. as well as we used clip art. So that was kind of how they developed over time. And we worked, I'm shocked at how long this collage, this collaboration has taken. So this is weather. Battle on through yet another weather-beaten day. It's die-hard rain and drought. Its ice pellets strike like bullets fired by quick on the trigger crooks, corrupting the climate. Weather through another stormy, actually I changed that. Weather through yet another stormy night, then rise up to the atmospheric occasion. Sun wrinkled and wizened, better and worse for the wear. Cleave to your unending endurance. Steady your aim toward restitution. So after this, I forget which one is after this, but there's a word, the next word is cleave, so that they kind of connect to the next page in that way. The word is used, and then you turn the page and the next word is actually cleave. So I think that's all I have to say.
Okay,
We've probably done our 10 minutes worth too.
yeah.
What size is it? It's hard to tell the size.
Yeah, so it's 7.5, no, it's 9 inches tall. And each page is 7.5, so it's 15 inches wide if it's fully opened, which meets the requirements exactly. After we got the book done to the first screenshot that you saw, if I had it to do over again, or we discussed some things, if we were doing it over again, might have made it a little bit shorter, but it works. So we'll use a Coptic binding on this so that it can display well.
So
Is
did you
there a
print?
difference? I'm sorry,
did
go
you-
ahead.
Did you print each page individually then on like a harder text, not a text weight, but a cardstock weight, and then you'll Coptic stitch bind them together? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Got
That's
it.
correct. So once we had all the text and the images pretty well done, we did the images in black and white first,
Mhm.
and then colored them in Photoshop. And this is where Sherry and I have really different aesthetics, somewhat different aesthetics. Sherry's a very colorful, she loves, you can tell by clothes, she loves bright colors, and I'm a pretty neutral type of, I like a bit of bright here and there, but I'm a pretty neutral. But we decided to go bright with black and white, which was interesting. I think the other thing I want to say about collaboration is the authenticity of a collaboration in allowing multiple, at least two or multiple aesthetics to combine, and the give and take and the flexibility that's necessary to do that. So the artist book that we created, neither one of us would have created this artist book on our own. It is a true collaboration and authentic to our work together.
Anita and Sherry, I'm curious about the word contronym. Is it exactly the same meaning as an antonym, or is it different in some way?
It's a slightly different. I think auto antonym, something like that, is similar. It's not exactly, antilogy is another exact word, I think. I'd have to go back to look at that again, but Sherry, can you remember? It's not, an antonym is, the contronym has to hold opposite meaning.
The same word that holds opposite.
Right, and an antonym is a word that's
word.
opposite from another word.
Yes.
But it doesn't, well, it's a whole different thing. So I see now, wow, that's a mind bender.
Yeah, it is. And Anita's we've talked about that, about holding two thoughts in your mind at the same time. Hard.
It is really hard. And sometimes when I was explaining this to my poetry group, they'd say, well, what are the two, weather, for instance, what are the two opposite definitions? And I'd sit there and go, duh. You know, I couldn't bring them together in my mind all at once. So yeah, it's
Well,
different.
And then to actually figure out a way to make it into a visual format, that's,
Yeah, it was hard.
I mean, when you first started talking about it, it seemed like a very simple concept. Okay, they're going to explore this word, and it's words that, it means words that have opposite meaning from what what they are. And then when you started talking about it, I was like, how in the hell did they even figure out how to just bring something forth about this concept in a tangible way? It blows me away. Very cool.
Well, we had fun. We played with it a lot. We laughed a lot. But you know, we had a lot of failures along the way. We just couldn't get the images to work together.
And that's another thing about collaboration. It's like a marriage, you know, one of you needs to say, okay, I'm really attached to this. And if the other person is not attached, you let them have it, or vice versa. You know, it's like, I really hate this. Well, we got to figure out another way to rework it then.
I really liked the fact that you use the word authentic, and I think the inference for me is that you are you're talking about things that relate both here and now, because it sounds quite contemporary. And certainly probably the color will really work for some people. And then with the opposite page being black and white. And I think going forward, there will be a historic, it's like a snapshot in time. And I think whatever your frame of reference is, you can bring that to the table too. And I think you can read this and look at this with many different interpretations. And I really appreciate that aspect.
But it really is more or less simple. In a way, it's very simple too. It's kind of like an illustrated dictionary, only with just 9 contronyms in it. There's times that it looks childlike almost. The text is kind of almost there's a lot of there's a lot of rhyming. There's a lot of internal rhymes as well as end of the lines, but it's a jingle. It's almost like jingles and jangles, and the writing is not, I pushed the writing out a lot farther than I usually do to make it more playful and almost more childlike.
Andy Burgess said it very well the other day. He said, simplicity is something that you arrive at, or something like that. And I thought, ooh, that is so true. You put a lot of things together and then you start to distill. And so he did a good job with that concept.
Now,
and you did.
I know you talked early on about the two of you had divided your words and you were both working on separate words. Did you both work on the writing of the poems?
Not really. Anita did most of the writing, well, all of the writing, and all I did was look at it and see if I objected to anything or wanted to add anything. But no, she did the 99% of the writing.
Yeah, I would think it would be very difficult to integrate your writing styles.
I'm working on another collaboration. Actually, it's done pretty much, but with my poetry group, that's 5 people. Oh my goodness. We wrote a poem together, and then we did artwork. It was going to be a full room, a large installation, but COVID stopped that. And now I turned it into a little artist book. It is very difficult. The 5 of us have dissimilar styles and certainly interests. But, over time we pulled it off to where everybody was okay with every single word and phrase. It was,
wow.
But yeah, woo. I think it can be done. And I think in some ways we learn so much from that type. We learn a lot from critiquing or talking about each other's work, but when you really put it together and it's a collaboration. Boy, we learn a lot more even
Mhm.
of what people, what their writing is and what it means to them. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Anything else? I'm sure we need to move on.
Great, great book. Great book. And it's been fun to hear about the concept and where you kind of started, and to hear about the process of you kind of stumbling through and trying different things that didn't work, because a lot of times we just see the product and we don't realize all the difficulties that you encounter, and you keep at it. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Sure. Okay, Joe.
I guess, I guess that was all. I had initially thought Maria could talk a little bit, but I don't know that we have,
Well,
3 minutes.
we're gonna go over like 10 minutes, like till 10 after.
Are you still interested, Maria, in saying a little bit about word, image, concept, all of that in artist books?
No, not today.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. So that's all I have. Does anyone else have any questions or anything they want to ask in general?
Ann Stevens has brought a little book that we visited with her early a few months ago, and it was one of her, what was it, 5 ideas, wasn't it, Ann?
Something like that.
6, maybe 6. You want to give us a showing?
All right, let's
And
see.
maybe a short reading to go with it?
Well, this is my A to Z and back again. It's a mini book. It's 2 inches square. It's A, and then there's the Z. So you start with the front cover, and there's the first poem is A to Z. Each word in the poem starts with the different letter of the alphabet in order. This one's about bookbinding, and then you close it up. And you open it again for the Z. And then the Z to A is about music, a xylophonist to be exact. And that's it, it just keeps going. And I used, for the cover, I saw this thing on somewhere on YouTube and several places, where you take cardstock and then condition it with glycerin and water. And it's supposed to make it look like leather. You spray it on, you crumble it up, and then let it dry, and it sort of looks like leather. It also makes the paper really delicate. Yeah, I noticed that I couldn't use tape to tape stuff down because it would peel parts of the paper off. So I did a whole sheet of the brown, and this was the last little bit that was left because I kept screwing it up. There are 2 sheets, and within each one is just a piece of cereal box in there, and to give it a little dimension, and just regular nice stationery paper and some floss to put it together, and that's it. Very simple, but it took me forever to get that stupid leather look to work right.
You want to do a quick reading? You want to read one of them for us?
Okay, let's do A to Z. Amiable bookbinder Coraline designs elegant folios, gathering historical information, judging kerning, leading, margins, noting old puny quartos require subtle typeface upgrades, variable width X height, young, zesty. I was inspired by Edward Gorey, who cheats on his X words and uses the X sound as in experience or whatever, instead of trying to find an actual word that started with an X. So I have, X height was in that one, but the other one is the xylophone words. Even though it doesn't sound like an X, it is an X. So that's it.
So this is really a book about making a book, at least A to Z, a lot of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's about
So
the little book binding, and then somebody trying to make music. So.
And then making music in the other one. It's interesting Because of in the poetry world, an Ars Poetica poem is a poem about writing. It includes things about writing poetry. And I've always wondered, what would an artist book be called if it was an artist book about making artist books? You work on that, and
I don't know if I'll get to that point yet, but anyway, A to Z and back again. So
thanks for sharing one of your ideas. How are the other ideas coming?
I've gathered stuff, let's put it that way. And you know, between humidity and other things, I just haven't had the energy to do anything with it. But I've got a whole stack of stuff to work on. So that's it. But I did, when y'all did the little, I didn't come to the group till late, and you had already done the chapbooks, but I also made a little chapbook. Y'all inspired me to do one of Ogden Nash poems. And so let's see if I just made myself a little stamp, full page stamp to color it, and then just put all the animal poems in there because
Very cool.
I like them. They're funny. Centipede, the dog, and duck, and firefly, and kitten and mouse. And
Did you
pigeon and
calligraphy
sparrow.
those? And did you calligraphy those or did you print them?
I just wrote them out by hand.
Yeah.
You know, just my regular handwriting. I didn't do
Yeah.
anything fancy.
Yeah, you're printing.
But I did do them in pencil first and transfer them so that I would be sure and spell the words right and get them placed correctly. But it is just my normal handwriting. Maybe a little taking more time and being a little neater.
Very fun.
Yeah. And one I did a while back, I just wanted to see if I could do a piano hinge with popsicle sticks. So this is a song written by David Iola Brubeck, and I just put the words in there because it went with summer. But I like the popsicle sticks. I thought they were cute. Anyway, most of these I wouldn't be able to get permission to put them in public, so they're just for me. But it was a way to experiment with doing a different binding.
So does anyone else have anything they'd like to share? No takers, huh?
Lots, books, anything.
I can show a partially completed book that I made for my Yellowstone trip. It's just right over here. Let me grab it real fast. It's so we recently went on a long camping trip to Yellowstone. We were there for 6 days and it was very cold. No showers in the entire campground because of COVID, I guess. So that was an adventure, sleeping in a tent with my husband, and he was thrilled not to have to bathe, but I wasn't. Anyways, I started recently when we go on our camping trips thinking about, I used to just have like one singular field book and I would do sketches in it every time we went somewhere. And I recently started thinking about how each experience is so very different, and it might be fun to have a single book. So right before we left, I was like, oh my God, I don't have anything I want to bring. And so what I did was I dug out, you know, when you go into a park, they give you the map, the fold out map that's kind of shiny like magazine paper. I figured out a way to fold it up. This is actually where we stayed. We stayed at Bridge Bay Campground. And this is the back of it. And I did just a multi-stitch binding on it. You can see that. And I used Reeves, BK Reeves paper inside of it. Oops. And I just started filling it with things like one of our first evenings there, a very young elk with what we call cowhorn spikes. And he was still in velvet, just wandered through, and he was like from here to my desk behind me. And I just started doing some gesture sketching and wrote a little poem with it. Young bull elk emerges from meadow, fat and sleek, unconcerned with guitar strumming people, because there was a guy nearby playing guitar, grazing sweet grass in the sun while no one else notices. because everybody was building fires and doing their camp in their little, and they don't really pay attention. They're just so focused on their campfires and stuff. They're not looking around. And we had another elk that came and laid down. Our tent overlooked this very small meadow, and this guy was massive. And we got to see 2 bull elks in this bigger meadow nearby, like it's the rut now or then, and they were clashing their horns together and you could hear it. And there was a cow elk grazing nearby, and she was kind of like, oh, well, let's look and battle while I eat my grass. And that was very exciting. Sometimes I didn't feel like drawing, or it was windy or too cold. And so I just wrote about the experience of wherever we were that day, hiking, or in this one place, we have these little camp chairs that are very portable. We drug them out near the river and sat down, and my husband was doing he does pen and ink drawings. And I just wrote. And I also have a drop spindle for spinning yarn, and I bring that. And so if I don't feel like drawing or writing, I just use my drop spindle. But we revisited a place that we had hiked before, and I did another painting of it. I tried to collect the water right out of where we were. That was on Yellowstone Lake. This was another a lake hike, but I couldn't get up to the water there because it was a very marshy edge. But it was very beautiful with lily pads, and it was blowing like hell. And that's kind of as far as I got. But now I have an idea of getting digging through other little sketchbooks and anything I did of previous trips to Yellowstone. I have to figure out a way to incorporate them in this little book. And some of them are double-sided. So now I'm faced with the, well, how do I could make a window and mount them in there somehow. So that's one of my future projects maybe here.
Thank you. That was great. I always think I'm going to do that sort of thing when I travel, and I never do.
I'm wondering.
We're out of time unless
Not quite. I'm wondering, about back a couple of months ago or something, we had a pretty long discussion on how do we incorporate text into image and back and forth with that. How are people doing with that? Any new thoughts on that subject?
Not good, I have to say. Still trying to figure it out.
Well, one of the things you said that really resonated with me was, you talked about the difference between printing and using your own handwriting. And I've been experimenting with using my own handwriting, which I always thought that printing represented professional, And so anyway, that was a really great tip because it really changes the whole dynamic of the book. And what I'm saying is really obvious, but sometimes when you're in the process, you don't think outside the box of things that are really obvious. So that was really helpful for me.
Cool.
And it's coming along. Yeah.
Anita, I also really liked going back to your prompt 3, the one about looking at a piece of your artwork and sort of having it talk with you. That has been very inspiring for me. I don't have as much challenge with the images and the words as I do with the book construction. So that's sort of where I'm stuck right now, and hoping to take some of the workshops coming up, possibly with Maria Lee this next week.
Okay. Well, I think we're done for another month. And I guess we'll see everybody in October on that Friday early, before our normal meeting day instead of Saturday. So anyway, thanks everybody.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, really inspiring, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody for sharing. Yeah, really.
Thanks,
everybody.
Chat, save it
Awesome.
now.
Thanks for the inspiration.
Yep.
Bye.
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 We'll post this up on the website soon.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, save chat. Got it. Okay, see you guys later on.